You want to do an intro, right? Like commemorating Caden dying in the dark alley.
Yeah, we should have like a little moment of silence for him. Or
Yeah.
do you know that commercial where it's like in the arms of an angel, and they're like telling us to donate to the dogs that are dying in shelters? We should do that.
I think I would love. Yeah, I would love if you did that. Like, put edited together like a little like intro like that for Caden.
Edit together variations of him laughing throughout our time together.
That'd be amazing.
He will be missed.
Yeah.
Caden, if you're out there somewhere, if you survived those mortal gunshot wounds from the dark alley, as Josh giggles in the background at your shooting, we hope you're doing well.
Really.
It is. Yeah. We hope you're doing well. And we're going to respect the reasons why you decided to take a step back for now, and keep that between us in-house.
Well, I was in the process of making a YouTube video explaining it in graphic detail, but if you say so, man.
At from Joshy. YouTube.com.
Subscribe today. Like, subscribe, notification bell, whatever the fuck they say.
And for all you who follow his channel, he's told me he has many more Ratchet and Clank videos coming up. So get ready for that.
Yeah, fuck.
It's all he wants to tell you. He sometimes calls me Clank.
Yeah, without even thinking.
Isn't that right, Josh?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what to say here. Help me.
I was hoping you would respond, yes, Clank.
Oh, well, I'm trying to fight the habit, so
I understand.
I think you should respect my wishes. Yeah.
All right. Well, moving into today's topic, I think we announced it at the end of the last video, at the end of our top 5 albums of the 2010 podcast, that we were going to come back, return to the alley, and talk about... Imagine going to a dark alley, and there's just a couple guys in the alley, not doing anything shady or anything, but just talking about their top 5 favorite movies at nighttime. Well, that's what you walked into when you clicked on our podcast today. So today we're going to talk about our top 5 movies of all time.
Right, so I guess, do you want to go first, John?
I'll go first, since the last pick of yours might segue us into our next episode.
Yeah, perhaps.
It might, or it might not. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe I'll throw you a curveball and pick something else.
I hope
you don't expect.
I hope you do. And I hope it's the Attack of the Killer Donuts.
We have to cover that on the podcast. That's amazing.
Oh my god, yes. I found it on iTunes today. Ooh, that just made me so happy to know that exists.
How did you find that? What was
the process there? I was just going through... Sometimes I like to go on there and try to find movies that are on sale. And that was a movie that's on sale right now.
Well, I imagine like 90% off or something, right?
I'm pretty sure it's never been more than $4.99. But yeah,
this is true. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
Attack of the Killer Donuts, and we're going to cover that film at a later date.
It will appear in our top 5 list as well. So we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. All right, my number 5 is Remember the Titans.
Ooh, Remember the Titans. Yeah, is that the one with like... I think I've watched that. I think I've seen that. I saw it in like school, I think.
You think so?
Is that, yeah. What happens in that? Is that...
So it's a movie based on true events. It's about a high school football team that has been...
I have seen it, yeah.
Yeah, that has been desegregated.
Yes, yeah, I saw that in school. I was like, I was just a little twat then, so I don't really remember it, but yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, I'm old enough to have seen that and remember seeing it in theaters, in the cinema. But it's always been a very powerful movie watching it. And fun fact, about 25 minutes away from where I live is the real life high school in which it took place.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and what makes the movie so special to me, I've always been a great advocate of people coming together. As somebody, I was a little white boy that grew up in a rougher part of town, and I was in the I was in the minority at the elementary school I went to, and I was often picked on for being a small white blonde kid.
Yeah,
So like so obviously it is what it is. I'm not saying racism or anything like that, but that's just the topic of racism has always been an interest of mine in the sense that I've always wanted it to go away forever. And that's what
yeah,
this movie kind of touches on. It touches on race, that like the touchy subject of race. It talks about people accepting the idea of welcoming somebody into your life that historically has never been there, and it shows them coming together in a very powerful way. And it's just a very and they do it via sports in this particular movie, with Denzel Washington as the football coach, so it makes
yeah,
the movie
right,
even
yeah,
better.
yeah.
But it's always just been such it's a tearjerker every single time. It's made by Disney, of course,
Hmm.
but they were in their bag when they made this movie. They did a really good job, and I recommend it to everybody who has not seen it. And if you have, it's definitely worth a rewatch.
Nice. Yeah, I remember bits of it from watching it in school, but I would love to actually sit down and digest it properly, and not in a classroom with loud ass kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I would love to watch that right now. With all the bullshit going on currently.
Yes.
It's just, yeah, it embarrasses me that there's still so many people out there that act like we're in the 1920s. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's
It
just it
it's
just
it
it
is
just frustrates
embarrassing.
me.
It is
Yeah,
embarrassing, and um, you know,
so I follow so many people who are just progressive, I guess, progressive and just thing, and it's nice. And then from time to time, I'll just stumble on some racist shit, and it's just like it's like really like we're all the way up here trying to make these progresses into society, and you're still all the way back there, still saying stuff like that. It just bugs the hell out of me.
not only just saying stuff like that, but believing it and teaching it to
Oh
their
yeah,
children and keeping it alive for some reason, and it just makes no sense to me.
yeah,
These people, these bigots, they just have just such twisted visions of what they think is reality.
yeah, exactly. And I just don't see the purpose of it. It's,
Something that's totally off topic, but for some reason, I'm pretty sure it's made its way into every single one of our podcasts, is hip hop music. But I just want to just say this before we move on to your number five. And while we're on the topic of race, I just want to say that, hip hop in general, specifically hip hop music, has made me just opened up my whole worldview, and just makes me so grateful for that music, because it tells me stories of people that I'll never be in their shoes to experience what they're experiencing.
yeah,
And growing up on that music as an adult, looking back, I had no idea that, hey, if I didn't listen to that, I wouldn't be exposed to that culture at all.
yeah,
A culture
exactly.
different than my own. So I'm just very grateful that it exists. And to link it into our podcast now, I'm very grateful that movies like Remember the Titans and other movies that deal with the topic of race and culture, I'm so grateful that they exist. It's so important to not ignore these films.
Yeah, that's why I'm loving all of Jordan Peele's stuff right now. He's really he's making great strides in that sense with Get Out Us, and also he's involved in the new Twilight Zone as well. And it's just nice seeing so many actors of all races in all his stuff. I really like what he's doing.
Me too, man. Me too. He's also making a remake of Candyman,
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
which also has a black lead character, and it's such an amazing thing that Jordan Peele is making these movies, because he's
yeah,
not only making these movies, because there are other filmmakers that make movies that primarily are around black lead characters, but for some reason it's probably just because of the depth and the appeal, but his movies are so popular. They're insanely popular, which I think is awesome.
yeah, yeah. I love it. It's really great.
All right. So,
Uh, that's my number five.
mhm.
Yeah, my number five. Going from a going from that beautiful, touching discussion to American Pie 2.
Why did not see that coming at all? But I love it.
Well, my number five was between that and The Truman Show, and I chose American Pie 2. So that should tell you everything you need to know about me.
That even those two movies are completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to pick this because no, for me it's just it's one of the most endlessly replayable comedies I've ever seen. The entire main series. I say main because they had some weird ass spin-offs, but the main four are fantastic. For me, it's just, I mean, as I said, it's just excellently expertly written comedy. This, for example, like in this one in particular, like there's a scene where like where like he knocks over a lamp and then it shows him fixing it with super glue. And you think, oh, that was just a joke that he was just knocked over his lamp or whatever. But then later on, there's a scene where he's where he's using lube for the first time, and
Yeah.
but then he accidentally uses the super glue instead. So that seemingly irrelevant thing comes back into play. It's just really great writing like that, great setup from stuff way earlier, paid off later, and stuff like that. It's really expertly written. And what I also love as well that really sets it apart for me, the whole series, over a lot of other comedies, is it has a lot of heart in the sense that it lets the serious moments breathe. Like there'll be some scenes where it's just the dad and the son talking and like bonding and saying how much they appreciate each other, and instead of like playing it for laughs or trying to squeeze in laughs, they just let it play naturally, no jokes, anything. And that's what really elevates it for me as well. It's not just wacky characters getting into wacky situations. It's just real people just getting themselves in these out of their league situations and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just yeah, it's just I feel like this series never gets the appreciation it deserves. In terms of discussion of comedy greats, I always see things like Superbad and stuff like that. But I feel like American Pie needs to be in the discussion more, because a lot of people just think it's just dick jokes and sex jokes and stuff like that. And I guess it is, but it's always done in a much more intelligent way than I think it gets credit for.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the reputation American Pie has, because I honestly think American Pie, and I do think sex jokes, high school jokes, dick jokes. But I totally see what you're saying, and you're putting this movie in a whole new light for me, which I respect. When you mentioned American Pie, I was trying to think of which one that was, because you got the original, then you have the one where they get married, and then the reunion, and then I forgot all
And
about the one where they went away for summer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're all pretty close to me, but I went with two in particular. I can't really tell you what. I guess just because I found the jokes funnier, I guess, and I guess right. That's it. I think that what pushed two over the others for me was it focused more on the Jim and Michelle relationship. Do you know have
Yeah,
you seen the
yeah.
films? Yeah, I think I loved that they focused more on that, and I love their dynamic. So I think that's what elevated it for me, just over the other ones, and just how they honed in on that great dynamic of Jim and Michelle and how they bounce off each other is just great. So I think that's what just pushed it above the others for me.
Yeah, the actress who plays Michelle is really, really good at capturing her characters.
Yeah, yeah, she. She's great at like again. That's what I'm on about with. And part of it is the writing, but part of it's also the acting. She in particular is just great at adding depth to the character. You know, because at first you think the character is just this ditzy character,
Hmm.
but then you really see, like for example, after she helps Jim prepare for the party and everything. She got you kind of see how actually she does kind of Jim has grown on it and she kind of cares about him, and it's just it's just all done in a very brilliant way. But just really sets it higher for me than a lot of other comedies.
That's really cool. Um, when I was younger, these movies were coming out and I wasn't allowed to watch them.
Yeah, I
So
can see that.
I
Yeah,
remember I discovered, and if any legal people are listening to this, like cops or anything like that, I'm just kidding. JK.
yeah.
But when I first discovered streaming movies online, the very first
No,
movie
no,
I ever.
hold on. That's where I draw the line morally. That's too much.
I told you I
She
was
gonna
just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, next you're gonna tell me you download music, piece of shit.
Oh, shit. The very first movie I watched was American Pie.
Oh, nice.
And that's how I finally watched the series.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
see the spin-offs as well?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, don't. I mean, I like the first one, Bandcamp, and I really like, and also Book of Love. I'd recommend those two, but anyway, getting off topic. So yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah, the only one I'm really aware of is Bandcamp.
That's, you're probably thinking of like the Bandcamp part of the story, though. Like there's one where they
No.
specifically go to band. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, because I
yeah.
remember like in the trailers of the DVD. I bought the DVD set eventually, so all my pirating days were validated. Um, there was always this trailer for American Pie presents Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they always like promote like the raunchiest stuff in their trailers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's what reels you in is that seemingly lowbrow, I guess, humor. But like I said, the writing for me is done in a much more tactful way than a lot of his contemporaries, and that's why the spin-offs didn't work as well. Is because it didn't have that sharp writing of the main four or any of that legitimate heart. So they did just become a caricature parody of American Pie, basically.
That's
Although
a
I
really
did
good way to
kind of
put it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I did, like I said, I did enjoy Bandcamp. I feel that kind of maintained the spirit of it, but the others kind of went off a cliff and just became like every other raunchy, dude bro thing.
Right. It's kind of like
Ameri-
it's kind of like comparing classic Simpsons to new Simpsons.
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, like yeah, any sort of comedy that goes on for a long time, they tend to lose. I mean, flanderization
Right.
happens and stuff like that. That was very much the case with these spin-offs, most of them.
Hmm. Sometimes I feel like I flanderize myself.
I guess, yeah.
No, but I just want to say that it's really interesting, and I really like that you picked American Pie 2 of all movies because the general perception of those movies is just raunchy teen humor, but the fact that
Yeah.
you point out its incredible writing is just I have to just applaud that. I think that's really great, and
Yeah.
it's just it just goes to show that you really shouldn't just judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, because because I've these films are some of the most replayable for me. Like I've seen them so many times, and for the longest time I couldn't figure out why. But after like doing YouTube and essentially writing comedy myself, going back to them now, like I see understand now what made it work for me. Because I kind of analyzing, okay, oh, I see how they settled up here and then paid off here, and how they
Yeah.
let this part breathe. That's what makes it click for me. Other than others, it's all little things like that. So it's just just regardless of my age, I keep coming back to them. There's just so many things that work for me for them.
Hmm.
Like I said, I really wish they'd get more appreciation.
I wonder if they ever. I mean, besides, I don't think they'll ever make another one, especially in the main series. If anything, they would reboot it.
I mean, they are actually making a new spin-off right now. It's probably been delayed because of the apocalypse, but yeah, they're making a spin-off right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like another Bandcamp type movie.
yeah, it's called. Actually, it's like a spit. Like It's called Gil's Rules or something. It's like focusing on like a bunch of girls for the first time. So it sounds like an interesting spin on it. It's usually being focused on the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's
yeah,
weird that they're making that a spin-off because that would be an interesting approach to like a reboot.
true. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, but I think maybe we saw how like Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters went.
Oh,
That was an all-female reboot, and that didn't go so well. So I'm not saying all female reboots are inherently a bad thing. It's just I understand why they experimented with a spin-off first.
yeah. This is like the most meandering podcast ever. Without,
No, it's really gone off a cliff.
I'm just saying, without, Caden here to guide us down the path of what we're supposed to talk about. But I just want to say, like, I said that because I also have more to add to what you just said, which is the common perception of the all-female cast of Ghostbusters got total hate, but I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
Okay, I've never seen any Ghostbusters actually, so I couldn't say either way.
Okay, you should definitely change that. They're enjoyable films for
Yeah,
sure. Especially
I
like
think the reason this is meandered is because we both love comedy, so I
yeah.
think we've just kind of gone to it. Yeah, that's what happened there.
All right. Well, let's move on to my number 4, which you kind of side dissed in your reason for loving American Pie 2.
Ooh.
My number 4 movie is Superbad.
Okay. Yes, I love Superbad. I want to go on record. I love Superbad. It's probably one of my favorite films. Even not my top five, but yeah, Superbad's incredible.
It was hard to pick that one because I also love the other films that they all made. The Apatow Crew, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, This Is the End. But I think the one that I always go back to is Superbad. Just because I think the first half of that movie, before it gets dark outside, before the two main characters split up, one of them's in... No. Before they get to that party, before Fogel gets to hang out with the cops,
Yeah.
it's where it happened. It happened at the robbery. The robbery in the gas station is where the movie kind of went in a different direction. But all up until that point, it's nonstop comedy, really nonstop Jonah Hill screaming the whole time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's so great though.
But I could listen to it forever.
Yeah, like this. I love that sequence where he's like, he goes in to get the alcohol, and then he keeps all these situations just keep happening. These exaggerated situations in his head, like where the cops, the security guard sees him, and then like his head gets chopped off by the guard. Just increasingly.
Yes.
Like it adds nothing to the film storyline wise, but it's just I could watch it all day. It's just so the Jonah Hill's acting, the way it's directed and paced, like, it's just all. It's just I mean, yeah, it's another one of those films I can just return to over and over.
Yeah. I actually disagree. I think it adds to the film because it adds depth to the character that Jonah Hill's playing.
I thought that when I said that, I was gonna say it
Yeah.
does flesh out his character in
'Cause-
in terms of his process, thought process.
Yeah, he's way more than just the loudmouth, do anything, say anything. He actually thinks about the consequences that could happen from his actions.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, I think my point there, where I was thinking from, is just that they kind of get that point across, then continue with it anyway. But like that's it works for me anyway. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean that one back and forth inside that little market when he's imagining checking out at the register, and he's like has this really old cashier lady, and he's like, enjoy your remaining years, and she's like,
Yeah.
I will enjoy fucking Jules, and he's like,
Yeah.
I will. Just that movie is nonstop quotables. It's amazing.
yeah. And yeah, I think you've really nailed what makes the film work. It's a very character-driven film. Like so many of the jokes derive either from the character's personality, well, yeah, just from the character's personalities, be it directly or indirectly, like with this, with that scene we discussed then.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the sign of the best comedy. It's not just random shit happening. It's all derives from the characters and stuff like that, and it's really grounds the film in a way and makes it all just work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we could have a whole podcast on Superbad in itself.
Yeah.
But
One film that is also one line that's also really aged well for me is
please say the one
it's
I'm
kind of thing.
thinking of.
It's probably not. No, it's like just a super like minor line, which is like it's just funny for me because the super out of touch guy. I just love when he asks like, "So you guys on MySpace?"
Oh God,
For me, it's
yes.
for me it's aged beautifully because at the time, imagine it was like corny and corny and showing how out of touch he is, but it's aged beautifully because now MySpace is just such a an
Hmm.
old thing, so it works even better for me.
It's an actual internet wasteland now.
Yeah.
The line I was thinking of, the line I've actually quoted in real life multiple times, is when the two girls are asking Jonah Hill to buy them liquor. And they're like, you scratch our backs, we'll scratch yours.
Oh yeah, it was funny because what was it, like the back of my cock.
Yeah, it's funny because my back is also located on my cock.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Um,
It's,
but that whole crew that made that movie, like I said earlier, they made, oh, they also made The 40-Year-Old Virgin. They made Knocked Up. They made Pineapple Express. They also have, an Eminem reference
yeah,
in the
yeah.
convenience
I was
store. He looked like
That's
Eminem.
our Eminem reference for the podcast.
Yep.
Got to work that in.
He looked like an Eminem, so he's circular. He's round. It's like, no, the rapper. But yeah, I mean,
There's so many just subtle jokes in there as well. Like I
yeah,
love when they're doing a Yoda voice. I love that he references. He says like Yoda from Attack of the Clones. There's Attack of the Clones of all films. He uses this reference point. I just find myself appreciating. It's not like Star Wars or even Empire. Like Attack of the Clones of all films. It's little things like that as
Yoda,
well.
Yoda from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
Jeez.
little things like that. It's just yeah,
Yeah, and something that bothered me when I was younger, but I can appreciate more now that I'm older, is at the end of the film where it got a little too bromancy. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Like they split up and they were really mad at each other at the end, but at the very end they were
And he
like,
carries him out, yeah, and all that, yeah.
they woke up in his basement and they were like side by side in their sleeping bags, and they had like the night before they had like an "I love you" moment, and
Yeah,
they went to the mall, and then they kind of did that look over their shoulder thing as they were parting ways with their love interests.
yeah,
Yeah, when I was younger, I was like, this ending sucks, honestly. But looking back on it now, it is really a tale of two friends that you're always around, but you begin to appreciate in a different light because you just go through so much together.
yeah. Spot on. It's very much a coming of age story in many senses.
Yeah, and it's right before in the narrative of the plot, right before they're about to go to different colleges. So all that they've been through together in the timeline of things seems to be ending, which is very true in the process of growing up. You do lose a lot of friends in the process
Yeah,
of that, and just that whole looking over your shoulder aspect at the end there, and then the credits roll. It's basically like we have to go our separate ways, but we'll never forget the times we've had together.
yeah. See, again, that's what sets the great comedies apart from the lesser ones for me. Is that there's just that genuine heart to it, and how they let those moments breathe.
Because we started off like probably at the first 10 minutes talking about Superbad. We're talking about my back's located on my cock. Just stupid
Yeah,
ass jokes, because the movie's full of stupid ass jokes, but it has so much heart, which lands it
yeah.
in my top 5 movies of all time.
Yeah, because that joke in particular, again, it's just it stems from him just trying his hardest, but it just not landing because he's so awkward.
And
That's what really,
it has nothing to do with the film. Like the
yeah,
overall, the movie could have gone without that, but
yeah. I
it's
always
in
found that
there.
to be a super out of place joke in some senses, but I mean, it does work as it ties into his character and everything. I don't know, I love it anyway.
I say we should have a super bad podcast. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much to the film. Yeah, I would love to do that.
All right, you want to go to your number 4?
Yeah. So my number 4, again, very probably. It was probably good Caden's not here. It'd be like face palming at my lack of widely regarded films. But
we're not film snobs.
yeah, I mean my top 3 probably fit. But yeah, this one. So this one is one of the Futurama movies. Bender's Big Score. This is the first Futurama movie.
Wow.
There was 4 Futurama movies. And this one I love because basically the core premise. This is kind of spoilery for you, I guess. I mean, it's not.
It's okay.
Yeah. So the whole premise of Futurama is that Fry is like frozen and he wakes up 1,000 years in the future. Well, this movie is this is so cool because it basically plays with him getting back home and then like the conflict of like staying there or going into the future, and basically it's like this whole time travel thing. And on first watch is like super convoluted, but it's the kind of thing that it's the sense of a ton of replay value for me because there's this great twist that I won't reveal, but like this huge twist about one of the characters that it just it's so interesting just to watching it back and seeing how it all fits in. And you combine all that with just your general great Futurama humor and charm and stuff, and it's just it's just great. It's a really interesting story seeing, like I said, it's this huge like time travel thing, like spanning across multiple timelines, and you like jump between the present and the future. It's kind of hard to like say. It's kind of thing that only really works if you've seen Futurama because it plays off a lot of like the character dynamics and story points of the series. So I can't really get more specific without because you haven't seen it, I don't believe.
Right.
Futurama. It's hard for me to be specific here, I guess, but yeah, it really feels like a great combination of the series really up to that point. And yeah, and also Al Gore and Mark Hamill are in it, and Mark Hamill raps as like a creature, so
Nice.
so that's good. Yeah. So any film with Mark Hamill rapping, I can't complain.
No, I think more films should have Mark Hamill rapping.
Yeah, Mark, I know you watch our podcast. You should consider it.
You definitely should. Just call our line. Email us at darkalleypodcast.com.
That on that Exhale feature.
So you said this is the first Superatma movie or the third?
First.
First, okay.
Yeah. There's 4 of them, and yeah, this is obviously the best, I think. Because the others kind of feel like extended episodes, whereas this I feel really made use of the format and really,
Right.
like I said, felt like an epic time travel story. It's done in a way that I feel I haven't really seen much before. I can't really the specifics, but yeah, it's just like I said, it just feels like a great combination of the series up to that point. It some great character, progresses some character dynamics in an interesting way. Like Fry and Leela's dynamic is kind of flipped on its head in a sense after this, which is just really cool. And then they pay that off in the 4th movie then. And again, it like flips some normal episodes are shown on its head as well. Like there's an episode with Fry's dog, just one of the most notorious episodes of the show, and they kind of flip that on his head as well. It's works really well and as his own thing. Jeez, deck my microphone. It works really well as his own thing, and it also just really enhances the series as a whole for me as well. It's just exactly what a movie adaptation should be of a series. It's just I love it.
Oh, that's really cool. I wasn't expecting anything like that at all.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it was one of those ones difficult for me to put on, but I just realized like after some thought, I just had to include it because I love it every time I watch it.
Right. It'd be like a disservice to yourself if you didn't include it.
Yeah, I feel it'd just be more interesting as well because other than like, I wouldn't not put something on just for the sake of it, but yeah,
Right.
yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's great.
I need to get into Futurama. I think you and I we talked last time we did, and I told you that I'd never really seen Futurama before. I've never given it a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally. I mean, you love The Simpsons. It's literally exactly like this. Same kind of humor as The Simpsons, but in the future. It's great. I love it.
Cool.
So yeah,
Did they
a
have
lot of
any? Did they have any callbacks to The Simpsons besides the? They did a crossover, right?
yeah, it's Simpsorama. It was a Simpsons episode. Yeah, yeah. They have a few references. Like in like the eighth episode of the show, they go to the moon, and there's like all Bart Simpson toys there, and
Oh,
they have a
cool.
few. Yeah, and there's like a few other references. It's no like explicit, like you don't just see that Bart pop up in one scene or anything like that. But yeah, there's a few references throughout the show.
That's really cool. Matt Groening, he has a new show, doesn't he, on Netflix?
Yeah, Disenchantment. Yeah,
Right.
I watched like 5 episodes of that. I it struggled to hold my attention. Like, it's a cool. Apparently, it does get better, but I don't know. I felt it was just missing something. Like, all the jokes were just kind of fell flat for me. Characters were great, but I don't know.
Right. Those shows that are really good but take a little bit to get into, they're so frustrating because I just want to start enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, we're gonna get sidetracked again. So, what is your number three?
My number three is the original 1978 Halloween.
Ooh, yeah. I watched that for the first time either early this year or last year, late last year. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, I watched that that and the 2018 one for the first time
Yeah?
within the last year, and I loved it. Yeah, watched it with my family. It was fantastic. I mean, you tell me, why is your favorite
Yeah,
this
I
time
mean,
then?
well, okay, so in 2000, in I want to say 2006, I was working at a Blockbuster, and there was posters for the 2007 Rob Zombie Halloween movie that was coming out. And I was like, that looks cool. I like that poster, but I think I should see the original first. And I have a story that goes along with this. So I rented the movie, the original, and I brought it home, and I watched it with one of my friends and my sister, and we were watching it all for the first time. And in the middle of the movie, when one of the characters was being stalked, I forget which one, the door in which we were of the room in which we were sitting in opened and creaked open by itself. I kid you not. And
Ooh.
we all freaked the fuck out, jumped up, and turned all the lights on and investigated the entire house because there was no one else here. But, that real life experience amplified my enjoyment for the movie, as things tend to when you just have a good atmosphere around you.
Yeah,
But this movie in particular is a classic for a reason. And I love it because it's not your typical Nightmare on Elm Street or even Friday the 13th, just hack 'em up slasher type movie. It's not mindless.
yeah.
Which maybe it is a little bit, because in the original movie there's not really any motive given.
Yeah, the
Because
thing that stood out to me when I watched it is very simplistic.
yeah,
That's not a bad thing, but it's honestly, that's kind of what made it work for me. It was very simple. So many horror movies lose themselves in trying to do this, like, this some twist, or
yeah,
trying to do all these twists and stuff like that. But this just plays it completely straight, and I think that's what makes it work.
yeah. Like at the end of the movie, it just you learn something that makes all of the past events make so much sense. In this movie, you really don't get anything.
Because that's the thing. That's what makes horror movies work, is that mystery. And so many horror movies, like I said, lose themselves in trying to add like this deep, mind blowing twist that puts it on the new perspective or whatever.
Hmm.
But that can, a lot of times, that just removes the mystery. So I really like that they just played it completely straight here, and yeah, and as a result, it just kept that mystery. This entire mysterious, almost like, I guess, distant and distant vibe to it the whole time, and I think that's what makes it interesting. And I could never. It's kept it consistently intriguing because there was always that aura of just of mystery, as I said.
Yeah, and he chased after the babysitter at the end there, and no matter how, I don't know if it introduced this But it probably introduced it to mainstream. The whole thing where no matter how fast you run, no matter how slow the bad guy goes,
Oh
he's
yeah,
always right behind you.
yeah, yeah,
And in this particular movie, he really was an unstoppable force, and which made it even scarier. It's like, why can't this thing in the movie? His mask was taken off. You did see his face in the original movie,
yeah. I remember.
so
Yeah,
you could see that he's just a man. But why didn't him being stabbed or XYZ, like, why didn't that stop him? And then at the very end, um, when he's shot multiple times and he falls off the balcony, and they look over and he's not there, which it just adds to it. It adds to the mystery of
yeah,
what. And
yeah.
I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the very first scene of the movie when the
Oh
house
yeah, the kid. Yeah.
the house comes into view, and yeah, the whole kids scene, but you see it from the kid's perspective, you see it from the kid's
Oh yeah,
point of view, and you see his hand open the door, and you see him pick up a mask, and then you see the rest of it through, like, as if you were wearing a mask yourself, through little eye holes, and you see his hand stabbing his sister upstairs, and then up until this point you don't know it's a kid, but then the camera turns around and shows you that it was just a little kid in a costume that did all of this. Not only
yeah.
all of that, but the fact that it did all of that in one shot, one consecutive
Oh yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Just, and if you think about movies nowadays, you probably experience this a lot when you're editing your own YouTube videos. You tell me to stop doing this when you're critiquing my videos. It's like there's so much dead air. You need to cut to some good action. You need to make sure that the space is filled. Um, but not back in the day. You used to get continuous, like 15-20 second clips, no cuts at all. Now, I think like the average is like 2 or 3 seconds, and you'll get a cut every 2 or 3 seconds.
That's one thing I really dislike, and I say that because unfortunately that is just what works with YouTube. Like,
Right.
um, I would love to just like I'm super nostalgic for like those old YouTube videos where like someone would just put on a Call of Duty gameplay and just talk over it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to just put gameplay and then just do my essay like that. But it's just it's definitely it definitely lost that simplicity. Like I said, simplicity, that's what really stood out to me. And so it is a shame that we've gone from that to constant stimulation.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
loved Blade Runner 2049 because it kind of returned to that kind of approach.
Yeah. I mean, and that's YouTube's format. You have to stay exciting, or your watch time minutes are going to drop. Um,
Yeah.
it has everything to do with the convenience of technology, and your mind always has to be stimulated. Like, I'm guilty of it. I was watching YouTube, an ad came on. Instead of waiting 15 seconds, I'm just going to wait 15 seconds. I went right to my phone and went on Twitter.
What I
Because,
always do when I get an ad, I always like back out the video and then go back into it until I don't get an ad or like a lesser ad.
oh, really?
Um, yeah, which yeah,
Yeah, YouTube hack.
yeah. I mean, it usually takes a few tries because they've actually increased ads recently. Like
Yeah.
I've noticed there's way more ads now, but um, yeah.
Yeah, but
But I feel like it just with with this whole need for stimulation, it kind of it can help. Can make stuff lose charm because so many like we were talking about with Superbad with that thing where about it was located on my cock. Like that doesn't add anything to the story or anything really. But it's just there just because it's a charming thing inherently.
mhm.
That I feel like you know I feel we wouldn't see as much now because everything needs to be cut and trimmed down to be exactly you know just constantly stimulating rather than letting side stuff like that breathe.
Yeah, there's almost no jump scares in the original Halloween movie, which you see an
Oh
overabundance
yeah,
of in modern horror films.
I appreciated that. Yeah,
Yeah,
cheapness like that. Yeah,
yeah, you were just drawn into the story and the mythos of the character. And
yeah,
you see two teens go into the couch in a sexual situation. You know that danger is right around the corner.
yeah,
But even just like watching Lori walk down the street. They just kept the camera on her for 5-10 seconds while she kind of looks around. It just adds to the tension, and I really
yeah,
appreciate that. It's a very minimalistic film, but
yeah,
it gets the most out of it possible because of its filmmaking, its writing, its atmosphere. It has a perfect fall time vibe to it.
yeah.
I
So
can't say anything bad about that movie.
yeah, it's, yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Really, what? Just great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I guess my number three.
Yes.
You asked me earlier. Do I like Indiana Jones? Well, my number three pick is The Last Crusade.
Cool.
Yeah, I love all the films, but um, for me, I enjoyed Last Crusade the most. I know a lot of people prefer Raiders, but I've always preferred The Last Crusade more, and I think it's because of that dynamic between Indy and his father. Um, it's just so entertaining, and also love. I feel that it's the most in depth portrayal of Indy because we go back to his childhood and we see how he came to be, and we really just see the character mature here. I feel,
Mm.
and yeah, and obviously just that general story. It really, I feel, captures the sense of adventure the best out of all the films. Gets a lot of interesting locations and a lot of great set pieces across a variety of things,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's across the board. It's just really captures that adventure vibe a lot of films had in the 80s on the level that I've found really enjoyable.
In the peak of Spielberg's success.
I guess, yeah,
Yeah. He had that charm to a lot of his films.
yeah. I'd say he
Um,
still does. Like I really enjoyed Ready Player One.
oh yeah, definitely. I wonder.
Uh,
I need to look at his resume and see what else he's put out lately.
yeah, I feel like I haven't seen many recent Spielberg films.
Yeah. So that one is the third one, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I've seen the Indiana Jones films one time through, just like before this weekend. I don't want to reveal anything.
mm,
I've now seen it
okay,
twice now. The other one, the other series I'm talking about.
all right, okay.
But I've seen Indiana Jones one time through. I do remember really enjoying it. I definitely need to revisit it.
Yeah, they're great. Even like even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I enjoyed that as well. Even with the monkey thing with the monkeys and some questionable stuff. I love all four films.
I actually haven't seen the Crystal Skull.
You haven't? Okay. I
No.
mean, yeah. I enjoyed it more than the reputation it has, so maybe you will too.
I mean, yeah, I liked the all-female version of Ghostbusters, and everyone else hated it.
Yeah,
So, you
exactly.
like what you like, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So, you kind of answered already, but like, what really sets your pick apart from the others in the series?
Um. Well,
Just the
yeah.
depth you get into the character, and
Yeah. Like I said, I feel it's the most in-depth portrayal of him. I really feel they just really flesh out the character, and you really see him mature. And like I said, I love that dynamic of him and his father. Um, it's the way they play off each other is just brilliant, and it just makes the film constantly entertaining because there's always just something interesting going on with them, whether it's a funny back and forth or even some sort of thing. Just kind of gives insight into their relationship and Indy's past and stuff like that. I feel there's a lot more depth going on.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like I was watching Temple of Doom recently, and like I actually found myself zoning out a few times because it was like super just generic action film, and like I said, I still enjoy it, but I was kind of taken aback by how lacking it felt in many senses. It just really felt like a generic action film, as I said.
interesting.
And of course, Yeah, and then of course, and then Raiders for me, Raiders is like I don't I think Raiders is like the best shot film and stuff like that, but um felt like they didn't like I felt there wasn't a whole lot going on in terms of like of character for Indy in it. Um, I've even seen like some people point out that like you could actually remove Indy from the film and like the story would mostly be the same it's because I feel like Last Crusade is very well. You know, they incorporate the character into it really well. It's very character driven in many regards. Whereas Raiders of the Lost Ark, most of the story is just usually really progressed by like the antagonists and stuff, and Indy's just kind of there doing stuff. And I mean that's the whole discussion in and of itself. I know I'm criticizing like a beloved film there, but I love that film too. It's definitely probably one of my favorite films as well. But, yeah, I just felt Last Crusade was just a lot tighter overall, a lot more going on, a lot more in depth. Like I said, I love the more interesting character dynamics. Character dynamics in general, I feel, is played up a lot more in this film, for that, which works really well. Like you see, Indy's friend, great interactions with him as well. Just I don't know, across the board, I feel I found it the most enjoyable indie film. Yeah, a lot more.
Cool. Um, do you think Temple of Doom seems more generic because do you think it started a lot of those things that became generic?
What do you mean?
Like like action movie tropes.
Right. I don't know. I feel like there were a lot of films in the 80s um, that were like that. And I think part of what made Raiders stand out was it didn't do that. Whereas so then Temple was disappointing because it then fell into that trap.
Oh, okay, so it was like more of the same.
So I think that's actually why Last Crusade was the way it was, because I think they realized, okay, we're kind of just lacking any sort of substance here, and that's why we got such great character interactions and character depth and stuff like that in Last Crusade.
It'd be really cool to see like a director's commentary.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is stuff like that out there, maybe like DVD commentary or something. It's definitely something
Yeah,
I'd love to listen to.
yeah. I wonder if I wonder what the general consensus of these films are. If you are in the majority or the minority on that one being your favorite.
I mean, for what I've seen, I mean, so the general ranking I see is Raiders as the best, then Last Crusade, then Temple, then Kingdom, the Crystal Skull. Um, so I mean, yeah, it tends, yeah. So I'd say it's like, I don't know, maybe like a 70, like 60 or 70% Raiders, then 30% Last Crusade, and like I rarely ever see Temple or Kingdom ranked as the best. So yeah, a lot of people do seem to prefer Raiders, although the Last Crusade does have a fair following as well.
Cool.
I'm one of them. Yeah,
Good old Harrison Ford
yeah.
holding down his cool guy characters.
And I mean, Harrison said that Indy was like his favorite character, right? Or at least that he preferred it to Han Solo.
Didn't he say he hated playing Han Solo?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he said at the very least he preferred Indy. It might even
Right.
be his favorite character. I can't remember exactly what he said, but yeah, I know he likes Indy anyway.
Yeah, he seems like one of those like old Tommy Lee Jones type people, where they're just very like cynical on young people now.
Yeah, Alec Guinness gives me that impression as well. Played Obi-Wan Kenobi originally. He
Oh, does
hated
he?
Star Wars. He hated Star Wars. He thought it was a load of crap, like a load of bullshit.
It made him a very rich man,
Yeah,
probably.
but we're getting sidetracked again. Let's stay on
That's
topic.
okay. When people are walking down a busy street, you know what happens when they get sidetracked? They probably wander into a dark alley. So
Eh,
we're doing exactly what our title says.
yeah,
um,
yeah. What is your number three? Do we do
my
the number
number
three? I've lost track.
two.
The two, yes. Fuck.
Yes. All right, my number two is Dumb and Dumber.
Ooh, yeah. I like that film.
I grew up idolizing Jim Carrey, as many people did growing up in the 90s. But Dumb and Dumber just is way set apart from Ace Ventura or The Mask or Liar Liar or any of those other films for me, just because it's not just him being off the wall. It's actually got a good story to it. It's got a good adventure, buddy friendship type film. It shows the main character make mistakes, and it
Yeah,
shows the main character fall in love with this woman, and he, spoiler alert, he doesn't end up with that woman, which is weird in movies because that's usually what happens at the end of films. The main character gets the girl. He did not. Um, but endless quotables. It's just, it has a just this very unique feel to it when I go back and watch it. It has a lot of those, we were talking about Halloween and those long shots. It has a lot of long shots in that one too.
yeah.
Like when,
I remember when I watched it. I watched it for the first time like a few years ago. Yeah, what really stood out to me was it was a very unique style of humor. Like usually most films I watch, like I can say, okay, that's absurdist or that's observational stuff like that.
right.
This one is you could say it's very it's obviously very character driven, but yeah, the humor is very quite diverse and very unique, as I said. So it actually took me at first I was kind of 50-50 on it. But rewatching it, it's the kind of film that just really grows on you as you get the humor essentially as it clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as you said, you combine that with the great dynamic between the two main characters and the great adventure feel and the buddy trip thing. It all just comes together to create this really unique film that just really stands out from a lot of other films.
Yeah. I could quote it all day. He's running down the airport terminal and the plane's taking off, but he doesn't know that. And the airport guy's like, "Sir, you can't go down there." And he turns around and he says, "It's okay. I'm a limo driver."
Of course, there's probably the most famous one I love is the so you're saying there's a chance.
Yep. She's already, yep. I think
The first time I watched it, that line stood out to me as like, oh, okay, that's like one of my favorite lines I've ever heard.
She's like, I'm married. And he's like, so yeah, like 1 in a million. Oh, 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah,
And then
really. Yeah.
later on in the film, he finds out that there is no chance, and he's like, so what was all that 1 in a million talk?
I love as well. Then I love the ending scene where like the bus comes along with all the women in, and they're like, "Oh, we need like two people to like two people to join us." And I can't remember exactly how it goes, but yeah, they just end up giving directions to somewhere they could go to find people.
Yeah, they needed two young men to help all these swimsuit models apply their sunscreen.
Yeah,
To help rub in their sunscreen in the hard to reach places, and they're like, "Oh, wow. Well, so if you go down this road, there's a town." It's great.
yeah,
There's another moment in the film like that where this couple walks by and one of the guys is like, "Whoa, would you look at the butt on that?" And the other guy looks and he's like, "Yeah, he must work out." It's brilliant. It's same with Halloween. I think Halloween has a lot of things that separate itself from other horror movies in the genre. Dumb and Dumber has a lot of characteristics which separates itself from the genre, given that it actually has a storyline, given that it does have a lot of heart in it, and much like with Superbad, it has a lot of heart. And I think, obviously, there's a lot of kid films out there that call themselves comedies, but really they just rely on making the kids laugh by inserting, crude humor like fart jokes and stuff like that.
yeah,
You know, sure, at a certain age that stuff is funny, but as you get older, it's not, and at least as much as it used to be. What's amazing about Dumb and Dumber is, as you get older, you appreciate it more and more. And those silly
Yeah.
moments that happen in the movie still, get a good chuckle out of you.
Yeah, that's the mark of a great comedy is as I said, like the American Pie films and Futurama and stuff. I've seen them a million times, so the jokes should get old. But because they're so driven into the characters and because they're just so well written in terms of how they're set up and then paid off and
Hmm.
everything like that, and how they tie into the character's arc as well. Not just jokes for the sake of it. It all just makes it endlessly replayable for me, which is a sign of a great comedy.
I agree. Um, when they were making the sequel, Dumb and Dumber 2, I was following the directors on Vine, actually.
Fine. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they made this challenge. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this challenge. You have to reenact your favorite scene from the original Dumb and Dumber film. We're gonna watch all of them, and the winner actually is going to be put into Dumb and Dumber 2. We're gonna fly you out here and put you in the movie somehow. And I was like, oh my god! So I did the scene in the beginning. If you remember Vine, it's like what, like 7 second clips. So you only had like 7 seconds to do your thing.
Yeah.
The scene I chose was when they just had enough um, of their dead end jobs at the beginning, and Jim Carrey's character is just like trying to pump up his friend. Let's go do this thing, and he's like, "We have no jobs, we have no food, our pets' heads are falling off." And I reenacted that scene, and I actually had to go outside and I like screamed the line because that's how it was delivered in the movie, and I submitted it, and I never heard from him. I didn't get the part,
Uh,
but it's just just that little fan interaction just also makes the movie a little bit more near and dear to myself.
yeah. I love when they do stuff like that.
It's fun, yeah. Yeah, that is my numero dos.
Nice. My number two is surprised you made it this far, but it's a Star Wars film, but it's not the traditional one. Do you want to guess what it could be?
Well, it's not the traditional one, so it's not Attack of the Clones.
Well, that's where you're wrong. No,
um, I'm gonna guess Return of the Jedi.
nailed it. Yeah, Return of the
Nice.
Jedi. Yeah, that's my favorite. I always see people say that this film is not as good as the other two. I guess mainly because of the Ewoks. I guess.
That's like the main criticism right there. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have never had an issue with that. I mean, the stormtroopers are always shown to be incompetent as fuck anyway. So like these wild animals beating them, like that's not too far fetched for me, honestly.
They're just bumbling idiots, the stormtroopers.
I mean, I mean, with that as well, I guess you could say that stormtroopers are trained like with like martial artists. I can't believe I'm justifying Ewoks right now. That's not how I intended to open this, but they say like with martial arts, like you're trained to like the one of the biggest things that can stop a trained martial artist is someone who's not trained because they do things you wouldn't expect.
Right.
And to me, that's why Ewoks are kind of believable to me because stormtroopers are probably trained for normal combat. So then when they're fighting these Ewoks with weird ass combat strategies, they're just not prepared for it. So for
Right.
me, I've never had an issue with Ewoks. Is my point.
Nice.
Yeah, but just in general sense, Return's my favorite because, again, for me, I guess is a thing I seem to like about like third, I guess sequels and I guess third films specifically seem to do this a lot. They just really explore the characters for me on a really you see them just fully mature, and for me, I find there's a lot of depth in stories like that, and here is no exception. Like the last hour of the film for me is like the best hour of like the whole Star Wars saga. Um, just seeing that conflict of will Luke turn to the light and dark side, seeing Vader will he turn to the dark or light side, just their whole dynamic in that whole standoff, and then obviously with Sidious there as well trying to sway the whole thing. It's constantly captivating to this day. I always get goosebumps every time I watch it, despite seeing it a million times. because it's just all these character themes and arcs just all coming together into this, this huge crescendo that is that whole set piece.
Yeah.
It's not just them swinging glow sticks around. Like it's all, know, like for me that works not just because it's great, not because of the choreography or anything like that, but just because of all the character actions behind it. Like just a light, a lightsaber swing in that battle isn't just for the sake of it. You understand the feeling behind it. Like the pain invader swinging the lightsaber at Luke and everything like that. It's all just brilliantly realizes the character arcs and themes of the story. And yeah, and then just in general, like I said, I just love seeing how they explore the characters in terms of maturity sense. Seeing Han Solo go from this scruffy ass dude to slightly more matured, and seeing him actually fall in love fully, and seeing him mature in that sense. And obviously then the whole dynamic, like I said, with Luke and Vader coming to terms with his whole interactions with that, and then obviously then with Luke and Leia as well. It's just I don't know. For me, it's the one I find myself returning to most. I find it explores again, like Last Crusade. I feel it just explores all the characters on a more interesting level for me in terms of seeing them mature and everything like that.
Wow, that's a different perspective. I really like your choices so far because you've you've chosen ones that aren't the popular choices in these franchises.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I do. I always find myself gravitating towards stuff like that because I feel a lot of people always gravitate towards the films where we see the characters become the iconic characters they're known as. But I've always been drawn more to those characters that then push them past that general idea of the character and then explore them on a deeper level, which I
Yeah,
feel Return of the Jedi and Last Crusade do.
yeah. You see Luke actually live up to what he was supposed to do and become this legend in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of the film?
I agree with a lot of what you said. I've also never had a problem with the Ewoks. I think one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars is that race through the woods on those gliders.
Oh yeah.
Those
Yeah.
things are
That's a
cool.
cool.
I remember I used to have my friend back in the day. He used to have, like, when we were kids, he used to have one of those little like figures, and I always wanted to play with it. Just pretend that I put whoever character I wanted on it and pretend to fly it around the house. Like, and just the way that they made them explode and just the noises they made have always been so cool.
Yeah, the sound design of the films have always been great.
Yeah.
Skywalker sound, I think, is even the. I mean, I don't know if that was established then, but that's what they use now, at least. That's the name of the film. I know.
Oh, did they actually give it a name?
Like the name of the sound, like of George Lucas's sound studio, is Skywalker's Sound, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, they're great at what they do.
and obviously that whole last scene with Palpatine
Yeah,
and Darth Vader and Luke, and is just so powerful, and how
yeah,
Darth just moves through the lightning and throws him down the thing. Just, it was like one of the most probably unexpected scenes in films, because you saw the emotion coming from Darth Vader for once, finally.
yeah. That's actually what really bugs me. He's now Lucas has since added that Vader yells no before doing it. That for me really detracted from the scene because I always loved as a kid how you would just see like it was just so brilliantly how it was done. It was just you would see his head just subtly turning. You could see just the cogs turning and him looking back and forth and deciding. That was so much more interesting than him just yelling no and then doing it. Just totally just missed the point.
I mean, would you rather him yell no there or yell no at the end of Revenge of the Sith?
Can I say neither?
That was the worst.
Yeah.
No. God. Um, but I spent many sick days from school, many days when I was little, just playing with these Star Wars toys, watching these movies. It was hard for me to put Star Wars in my top five just because I don't know why, but I would definitely have to agree. I would probably be in the popular vote and say Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's like right behind Jedi for me. They're both just classics.
yeah, that whole scene in the snow on Hoth is just second to none, I think. But yeah, Return of the Jedi. What do you think about Hayden Christensen being put in?
Oh, I personally like that actually because um I felt like that was I always liked that. I felt it made more sense because he was going back to when he was last fully on the light side. I also just liked how it connected the films in a way that wasn't really obtrusive like some of the other changes were. I know
Yeah.
I've always liked it. Maybe that's just because I grew up on the prequels, so I have that attachment to
Oh,
like Hayden
okay.
Christensen as Anakin.
That makes
But I
sense.
don't know. Yeah, but I've always liked, not minded it. I've always liked it. So it was
Yeah.
nice. 'Cause I remember when I originally watched the one with the original guy. I remember at first I was just confused,
Who the
and
hell's that
and then I
guy?
realized, oh yeah, that's Vader. But yeah, um, I always personally like that change. It
I
made
know
sense to
that
me. I like it.
I know that a lot of diehard Star Wars fans absolutely hate that. Um,
Imagine if you like grew up on the originals. I could see that being annoying, especially because most people don't like the prequels. So then they forced in that sense. I totally understand it, but I
mhm.
personally have always liked it.
I I didn't like
What do
it.
you think of it?
I didn't
Didn't
like
like
it.
it, yeah,
No. But it is what it is. George Lucas just keeps making changes to all of his movies.
yeah,
I think even South Park made fun of that.
yeah,
um, no, but I totally I love the pick. I love the pick.
yeah.
I've seen it so many times. I think the one I've seen the most recently is Rogue One.
Did you not see Solo or Rise of Skywalker?
I saw Rise of Skywalker, but I've seen Rogue One more recently than that.
Okay, yeah. Rogue One was great. Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite Star Wars film. Though I
Hmm.
hated it. I mean, we don't go off topic into that, but yeah,
Right.
maybe that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got to have like a 5-part Star Wars podcast.
yeah.
I've actually never seen Solo. That's one. I think the one I haven't seen.
That's your boy is in that. How have you not seen it?
I know he's in it. I know he's in it. I've just heard that it's not the best movie.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not. Yeah, it's not bad. But it's like for me, it was just super average. Like it was watchable. It's okay. It's like a solid like 6, 7 out of 10 maybe.
Hmm.
There was nothing bad with it. It was just kind of there for me. Like it didn't blow me. It didn't do anything that blew me away. It was just there. That's all I can really say. It's a solid film for me. Solid, average, depending on
I mean, I'm interested to
whether
watch
you're an
it.
optimist or pessimist.
I just have to be in the
Yeah, it's
mood.
worth watching.
Yeah, I just have to be in the mood to watch it. Um,
Yeah, it's worth watching. Yeah, I'd say
yeah.
if as well. Like if you want new Star Wars, you can't go wrong with it.
Now, in Return of the Jedi, is that when Luke gets his green lightsaber?
It is yeah, I
Yeah,
believe so. Except the blue
because
and yeah,
the blue
Empire.
one fell down the thing at the end of Empire, right?
Yeah, and then Ray magically got it in Force Awakens. So
How? I
yeah, it worked out, I
don't
guess. But
know. um, was Luke with, besides in the beginning when Jabba the Hutt scene happened, was Luke with the main characters at all in the movie?
um, I never thought about that. That's a good point. Yeah, I guess yeah, I guess he was briefly. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. I think he was. He was on Endor for a bit. So yeah, I think he was. Yeah, remember?
Okay.
Yeah, of course he was, because he was like, in that biker scene you referenced, like that was him and Leia. So yeah, he was. I feel like not as much as the others though.
Interesting.
Actually,
Yeah.
Empire, no, I'd say Empire. He was pretty split up from them as well though. Like he was off, on Dagobah with Yoda from Attack of the Clones. So,
Yeah.
uh,
All right. Well, we definitely need to have. I'm going to put that in our Google Docs, Star Wars podcast.
absolutely.
That's going to be
For now,
a whole day long.
John's number one.
My number one movie of all time is Jurassic Park.
Nice. I had a feeling because you always mention it.
Yeah. Do I always mention it?
I feel you mention it like a fair amount.
Oh.
It may be like, yeah. Well, yeah, I can't say because I'll spoil my number one, but it may be like me how I just casually slip in references to my number one all the time without even realizing. You do the same, I feel, with Jurassic Park.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's with good reason because I cannot get enough of not only Jurassic Park and not only Steven Spielberg films in general, but dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs and I've always loved dinosaurs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the fact that Jurassic Park was written by Michael Crichton, a scientist, you know, there's a lot of science that went into this movie. It's not just like another monster film, like it's King Kong or Planet of the Apes. It's
yeah,
or Godzilla even. It's a story built on science what ifs that were what ifs at the time, since so many of them have been disproven. But coming from 1993, I think that's basically where science was at the time, and still watching the movie to this day, like the animatronics hold up. They still look really good.
yeah. I think that angle is what makes it more than just a generic pop flick. Generic pop. Why did I say pop? Generic action flick. There is that grounding and that element of depth to it.
Yeah, you've seen it, correct?
I have, yeah.
Cool. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on it?
I haven't seen it in a long time, so I really couldn't give my in-depth thoughts on the kids in it or anything. But yeah, I remember it being really good. It's just I remember just being I felt nailed just the suspense elements. Like that scene where she's hiding from those, I can't remember what they're called, in the kitchen. She's trying to navigate around them, and then the guy's in the toilet, and then like the T-Rex rips it off. I think that was the thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really a film that just nails suspense for me. And again, as we kind of talked about, is that it works so well because it lets those things breathe. There's no jump cuts or anything. You just see it moving around in the kitchen, and you see the dinosaurs moving in the background, and it just lingers on that for a long time, to the point that you become uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess again, it kind of ties into that whole show don't tell thing, because it really, it was painful for the character because they're just there for ages as the dinosaurs. They're looking for them, so that's what makes them uncomfortable and scared. And it does that to the viewer as well. So that's what really makes it hit on a emotional and personal level. Just really perfect suspense. And
Yeah, you make a lot of good points. First one, I want to touch on two of your points. I want to talk about the raptors in the kitchen scene, which is one of my favorite scenes ever. It's like the Jurassic Park.
Iconic.
When you think about Jurassic Park in a wow scene, you think about the scene where the T-Rex breaks out.
Oh yeah,
in the beginning, or in one of the first real dinosaur scenes. You think about that scene and the T-Rex just going crazy on these cars and these poor people. But the number one dinosaur scene in that movie has to be the raptors in the kitchen, because it's such a claustrophobic scene. They can't move.
That's the right word.
You've been exposed to how intelligent these animals are. And
that's a good point I didn't think about. Yeah, just the fact that these aren't just dumb animals; it actually has an intelligence to them, as well as the speed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
dynamic we haven't really seen much. Really, there's always these whenever it's like fast and brutish creatures like that, they're always just dumb. So that intelligence is what made them scary.
Yeah, and in the movie, they actually learned how to open doors.
Oh yeah,
One interesting thing about the intelligence of the animals is they make mention of it in the dialogue when they're in the very beginning of the movie when they're feeding the raptors. They talk about the electric fence.
yeah.
They would attack a part of the fence, know that it's electric, and they would never attack that part of the fence ever again because they remember.
Yeah.
So they learn as they go. They're adaptable creatures, which is what makes you think that they can adapt to the real world. And they will adapt via their own natural instincts, which makes them ultra dangerous.
Oh yeah, great point. Yeah.
In the second part that I wanted to touch on, what you said is the show, or the what did you say? You said the
Show don't
building,
tell. Yeah.
show don't tell, but the building of suspense. I think Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg does a really good job of this in Jurassic Park and Jaws also. In Jaws, it's a while before you actually see the shark. Over an hour into the movie, you don't see the shark one time. You see what it does, but you don't see it, which just builds the tension you have for what it is out there in the water. In Jurassic Park, you see the brontosaurus, you see the herds of dinosaurs down near the water. You're shown the raptor cage, but you're not shown the raptor yet. You're shown the baby raptor hatching from the egg. But the first, and when you're going through on the Jurassic Park tour, when the characters are doing that, they're looking at all these exhibits and they're not seeing anything. And they're all disappointed because nothing's there except a sick Triceratops.
Yeah.
So there's no like tension or there's no you know, spooky factor yet. But then, like, when the storm comes through, the first image you get of something dangerous is the T Rex breaking out. And it takes about an hour into the movie for it to get there. And so it's just build up, build up, build up,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Great
makes
point.
it really effective when it finally happens.
I feel that just works well because of that juxtapositional element. You know how you're lulled into a sense of security, so then when it then is flipped on its head, it makes it hit even harder.
Yeah, because if you were shown the T Rex earlier in the film, if you just saw it kind of grazing or just kind of chilling by some trees, when it breaks out, when it does, it wouldn't have the same effect that it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you see it come through the fence and it does its famous roar, and you see how big it is compared to the cars,
Yeah,
and you're like, oh my god, they are screwed. You wouldn't have that same feeling if you had seen it earlier in the movie, just
yeah,
chilling, not being fearsome.
yeah. I have nothing else to add. It's just it's great. Yeah, I agree with you. Great pick.
Woohoo! All right, your number one.
Wonder what it could be. Yeah, my number one, of course, is a Back to the Future film. My personal favorite is the second one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Back to the Future 2. I mean, it changes a lot for me. Like, imagine if you asked me this a year from now, it might be different. Like, for a while, it was actually it was like the third one, and then it was the first one. It changes a lot for me, but right now, I love 2 the most. For me, I feel it's just because it. I mean, for me, I think it just has the best story. I feel like I love how each act is like in a different time era, essentially. First they go to the future, and then they go to like that dark timeline, which is just so cool. I think even watching it now, just seeing everything, seeing the lovely neighborhood we've seen in the first film, now just this dark rundown thing with gunshots in the distance and everything. It's just so cool. And then that final act where then we relive the events of the first film, but from a new perspective, and like how it kind of intertwines with the first film. It's just really genius.
Yeah.
And then I also love it the most as well because I feel it really hones in on that Marty and Doc relationship. I mean, I guess all the films do, but again, I think it ties into I feel it explores on a deeper level than what we saw in the first film. And the third film kind of focuses more on like Doc's as getting in a relationship and explore Doc more as an individual. But I feel the second one nailed that great balance between exploring the dynamic of Marty and Doc, versus the first film, which is focused more on the parents, and as I said, the third with Clara and stuff. So yeah, and I think all that just comes together, just create an amazing film. And then obviously, then there's the signature humor and everything as well. And you throw all that in, and there's just so much great stuff going on there.
Yeah, the second film, I think it highlights the individual characters' personalities the most.
Yeah,
You see Doc. You see Doc in his wide eyes the most. You see Marty and his his youthfulness the most, I'd say.
Yeah, and also as his oldest as well, because obviously we see him as he's older as well. I think that whole sequence is interesting because you can see what could happen. So that adds an element of suspense in a way, because you want to say, oh well, how the hell did Marty end up like this? And
right,
obviously they pay that off then in the third film, but it's still well, I'm interested in ideas going on.
Definitely, I mean, I want to get into it, but I feel like we have a podcast coming up that's going to be just about these movies.
Maybe who knows? Really,
I don't know. I can't see into the future. Maybe if we had a DeLorean.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, you watched 2 recently. What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was really cool how they did it. I thought all the callbacks, it's like, oh, that was from the first one. That was from the first one. But like from a different angle, like you said, like the characters would be shown from a different angle doing what they did in the first one, and then you'd see the same characters come from a whole different place. As it's like, what? It's hard to explain.
I get what you're saying.
It's like you and I are doing this podcast, but then you see myself walk through my door, and you see yourself knock on your door. And it's like, you shouldn't do this podcast. I'm from the future. I'm here to warn you. Don't do this podcast anymore. It's just really cool to see the future selves they don't interact with the older selves, or at least they try not to.
Biff does with himself.
Right, he does.
Yeah, generally. Well, see, that's what made this so cool to me, was how that dynamic of them of trying to avoid themselves, because if they run into themselves, it could cause a paradox and destroy the universe. Just that element is cool to me.
Jennifer ran into herself too.
Yeah, like that's it. Yeah, they saw each other, then just collapsed. And yeah, yeah, it's that whole dynamic is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a lot to say about it. I think I should maybe save a lot of it for
and well, that's just fitting because
the future.
Yeah, because as we said, our next podcast will be on the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to say much more, because I think we want to save it for that. But
yeah, exactly. But rewatching this trilogy, again, I don't want to say too much, but I could see myself going back to this trilogy a lot, just because of how fun it is. When the trilogy was ending, I actually thought to myself, I definitely see why this is Josh's favorite franchise. It is a lot of fun, and it's a lot to think about, and it's a lot to take in, and I can see the more you watch it, the more you pick up.
Yeah, like I've seen all 3 of the movies 100+ times each. Like I told you, whenever I put one of the films on, I'm always just quoting the lines before they happen, which has become like a thing in my house, because my my family just like roll their eyes and are like, oh, for fuck's sake, there he goes again with quoting every line from the film. So I just know these films like perfectly, but I still pick up new things. Like for example, like Back to the Future 2 and 3 were filmed at the same time. So in 2, there's loads of references to cowboys and the Wild West. So I'm always picking up like new foreshadowing like that. Like for example, Doc's T-shirt has trains on, foreshadowing the train sequence in 3.
Oh, that's cool.
When in the future, Marty with those kids plays that Wild West shooting game, which
Yeah.
foreshadows in 3, where he does that shooting gallery, and also just generally ties into the Wild West. And just so many little details like that. And we talked about that with the music podcast, where I think the thing that makes something so replayable is when there's so much depth and little details and attention to detail like that beyond just the surface level. And that's what makes something so satisfying in terms of great replay value in that sense. And the films too, especially, I feel has that in spades.
Yeah. Well, um, wait, spades?
You've never heard that saying?
No. What did you say? Say it again.
Yeah, it has it in spades. I mean, like it has, it has a lot of it. You've never heard that phrase?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. It's like I was with you, and then my mind just stuck on that. I was like, wait, what did he say?
Hold up.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to talk about this with you. Like I said, I just rewatched the whole trilogy in the last, I want to say, 3 days, and I had an absolute blast doing it. So I really look forward to getting in depth on this with you.
Yeah, well, we will do that next time.
We'll do
So,
that next time. So maybe, I don't know, in real time next week. Next week, you'll
yeah,
hear the next Dark Alley podcast featuring your two favorite alley boys. Bye.
peace.